Hey, peace, everyone. Thanks for being here. One idea, lid.
Recognize royalty, recognize it, recognize royalty, gotta recognize it, recognize royalty, like they ain't got eyes to recognize royalty. Recognize royalty, recognize royalty, 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 recognize royalty, recognize royalty. I recognize it. I recognize passion. Never just the man with the title in his hand, with the vital in his hand, with the Bible in his hand. You never just the man with the scepter and demand, with the lecture and the stand, with the vector and the candle. Can you understand the grand from the texture of the hand? Hard at work, are you hard at work? Working with the man, don't kiss the ring of royalty. Crown him king, just a thing, letting loyalty ring. Bring frankincense and myrrh and other things. It's gold already blings from the highest that prizes no sins. Recognize the king's overruling commandments with the Trinity and the power it brings when you recognize royalty. I feel it. Yeah, I see it. I recognize now. Royalty. I see it. Now I'm in love now. I recognize your passion. Recognize royalty.
Yeah. So once again, peace. Welcome to part 5 of our saga. Part 4. We did the mathematics, son. And we said the creators of hip hop are white, and the teachers of hip hop are Arabs. So that's kind of where we are in our quest to find out who is the creator of hip hop. At all turns we're finding out that it's there are very non-black influences going on, and a lot of remixing and a lot of cutting and scratching. The music, hip hop music is cutting and scratching of music that already existed. It's just cutting and scratching disco music, and rapping over it, and dancing to it, and that's hip hop culture. The same with the teachings. The teachings is just cutting and scratching Islam and creating NOI, and cutting and scratching some more and creating the 5% nation, the gods and earths. So that's where we are. Creators are white, teachers are Arab. We want Arab money. We want Arab teachers. That's what's up. And we want Arab teachers from the Messianic groups, which is what Fard Muhammad was a part of. Fard Muhammad was one of those, Messianic types who, believed that the black man was the original man. He actually believed in the Mahdi. Y'all can kind of look it up or watch the last videos. It's all in there. The Mahdi, who is the Messiah. And that he's going to return to come and save the black man and all that. But the idea drawn is that the black man is the original man, and we created civilization, which makes sense, or at least helps to explain why black people take claim to creating everything. We created the Egyptian civilization. We created the Moorish civilization, the Moorish civilization that conquered Europe. We're native to America. We're the Abos. Anything great, that's us. Um, and now even America, we created America. We're foundational Black Americans, you know. So I'm wondering if just that whole idea of wanting to take credit for everything is kind of in our subconscious psyche somewhere, which is just residue from, our teachings that we are the original man and the creators of civilization. You know, I mean, create civilization. Why couldn't we create everything? Or at least take credit for it. um, yeah, but knowledge, we also said knowledge as the fifth element, even more importantly, is un-American. It's a separatist, hate for white people, the white man is the devil ideology. That's what the knowledge element is all about. And it's also about drugs and sex and gang activity. Um, or maybe not the knowledge element, but hip hop in and of itself is gang, sex, and drug activity, and all of those things are un-American. That's the main idea: is that hip hop is an un-American culture. The creators are white, the teachers are Arab. It's an un-American system and an un-American culture. But today we're kind of gonna go back and look a little bit more on the creators of hip hop. We're gonna talk about that a little bit more and kind of see where it takes us. Yeah. All right. So here we go. So the next thing we want to do is we want to take a little hippity hop to the candy shop. That's our next move in our adventures. And what that means is we're going to take a look at the origin of the term hip hop. So, as usual, we're going to wiki and see what we can see. So it says the origin of the phrase hip hop is unknown, but a very old example of the phrase appears in scene 2 of an anonymously written satirical play from 1671 called The Rehearsal, thought to be written by George Villiers, second Duke of Buckingham, and others. Wow. Imagine that. Imagine that. The very phrase hip hop goes back to the Duke of Buckingham. Isn't that special? Yeah, man. That's so lovely. So yeah, the phrase itself goes back to a play written by the Duke. A character in the play named Bays says, "I is not I gadha." Or to go off hip hop on this occasion is 1,000 times better than any conclusion in the world I got. This play, that was pretty good. I give myself kind of like a 8.72 out of like a 8.76. That was pretty good. That was pretty good. This play and 2 other later sources are mentioned as an entry, hip hop, in a multi-volume dictionary from 1901 called A New English Dictionary on Historical Principles. This is in that plays from 1671. From 1671, from the Buckingham Palace. And it was written, it's written in an entry in 1901. And the definition is hip hop, or a reduplication of hop with alternation of lighter and heavier vowel, like drip, drop, tip, top, with hopping movement, with successive hops. A similar phrase, hippity hop, of unknown origin, goes at least back to the 1800s and appears in a poem, Spring Weather, written by Elizabeth Cummings, published in an 1882 children's magazine called Wide Awake. Look at that. Look at that, hippity hoppers. Y'all go all the way back. Y'all go all the way back. That's 19th century. That's 17th century. Wow. Y'all been hippity hopping for a long time. Yeah. But yeah, a similar phrase, hippity hop, of unknown origin, goes back to the 1800s and appears in a poem, Spring Weather, written by Elizabeth Cummings, published in an 1882 children's magazine called Wide Awake. The illustrated poem begins, hippity hop to the candy shop, 4 little men in a row. And the phrase appears a few more times. Hippity hop to the candy shop, 4 little men in a row. The hopping depicted in the illustration seems to cross over later to describing dances such as the Lindy hop. So hippity hop, the hopping depicted in the illustration, hippity hop is now describes dances such as the Lindy hop. Oh no, it's just the hop part that describes dances. The hop is the dancing. The hop is the dancing. OMG. And what's the hip? Let's see. So the hopping depicted in the illustration seems to cross over later to describing dances such as the Lindy hop, or that happened later. Yeah, okay, which began in Harlem in the late 1920s. Later dance parties in the 1970s with DJs predated rap music, but rap music would evolve out of them. Later dance parties in the 1970s with DJs predated rap music, but rap music would evolve out of them. That's that disco we was talking about. In an article in Medium, Jeff Chang writes, Father Amde Hamilton of the influential rap precursors, the Watts Prophets, told me that when he was growing up along Central Avenue in 1950s Los Angeles, the older folks used to call teen house parties them old hippity hops. them old hippity hops is what the old folks would call the disco parties. That right? Yeah. Hippity hops. The earliest known instance of hip hop as a compound phrase in a song lyric is in a song about dancing by the doo-wop group. Is a song about dancing by the doo-wop group, the Dovels, in 1963 called "You Can't Sit Down." The lyric is, "You gotta slop, bop, flip flop, hip hop, never stop." Keith Bars. Keith Cowboy, rapper with Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, who is sometimes credited with the term as it relates to hip hop as we know it today, although it was not documented. Who? Keith Cowboy? Keith Cowboy is credited with what? No, it's not no Keith Cowboy. It's this lady up here. It's the hippity hop lady. Hippity hop to the candy shop, 4 little men in a row. Those bars already. And that's it. That's what is that? 1671? No, that's 1890 some 1870, and we want to talk about who? What's his name? Grandmaster Flash? No. Keith Cowboy? No. I mean, I'm gonna say no to that, buddy. I think it's before your time. The whole hippity hop thing with the, disco, that's just natural. That just seems more logical. Um, but anyway, let's read. It says, Lovebug Starsky, Keith Cowboy, and DJ Hollywood used the term when the music was still known as disco rap. Yeah, they were using the term when it was known as disco rap because there was some old folks calling it hippity hop. Hello. It is believed by some that Cowboy created the term while teasing a friend who had just joined the U.S. Army by singing the words hip hop in a way that mimicked the rhythmic cadence of soldiers marching. Um, psh, no, I like the other one, but I like the hippity hop story. Um, Cowboy later worked hip hop into a part of his stage performance, saying something along the lines of what was adopted by other artists such as the Sugar Hill Gang in 1979 in one of the earliest rap records, Rapper's Delight. Cowboy later worked hip hop into a part of his stage performance, saying something along the lines of what was adopted by such artists as the Sugar Hill Gang in 1979 in one of the earliest rap records, Rapper's Delight. I said a hip hop, hibbity hip hop, yeah, and you don't stop. Yes, I was very bad, um, but it was a bar. Universal Zulu Nation founder and music artist Africa Bebe Bambata is credited with first using the term as a five-element culture of which the music belonged, although it is also suggested that it was sometimes used as a derogatory term. Um, yeah, by them old folks, hippity, they was calling y'all hippity hoppers. Come on, my word. My word, them old folks was tired of y'all. You got to be kidding me. So it was used as a derogatory term. Makes perfect sense. Hip hop music in the early 1980s was an anti drug and anti violence social movement led by Africa Bambata and the Universal Zulu Nation. Yeah, it was them gangsters, the gangsters, they start wars and then turn around and start anti-violence movements, start violence, then anti-violence. And that's what they do. That's the gang way. The term was used in an article of February 24th, 1979 by reporter Flipping Jr., Robert Flipping Jr. in the New Pittsburgh Courier. The article is about DJs and discotheque nightclubs in Pittsburgh and does not mention rap music, but says this. DJ Starsky, or Lovebug Starsky, one of the more prominent bass disc jockeys, he is also responsible for the derivation of the hip hop. Lovebug Starsky is also credited for the term by Africa Bambata in January 1982. Interview by Michael Holman in East Village Eye. Holman stating, hip hop, the all-inclusive tag for the rapping, breaking, graffiti writing, crew, fashion-wearing street subculture. The term gained further currency in September of that year in another Bambata interview in The Village Voice by Stephen Hager, later author of a 1984 history of hip-hop. Yeah, it's them. Hip-hop and rap music are often used interchangeably, but the term hip-hop has also been historically used to describe a culture of which music is a part. Historically, hip-hop is a cultural movement that emerged in the South Bronx in New York City during the 1970s which included emceeing or rapping, graffiti art or aerosol art, breakdancing, DJing, and knowledge. Yeah, all of this is so inspiring. Yeah, yeah. This is, the rabbit hole has been very, hold on, I'm not even gonna say that. Yeah, man, this has been very revealing. So, the term disco is white, the term hip hop is white. The hippity hoppers, the old folks calling them like that is just so natural to me. It makes sense to me. It's hippity hop is old white folks, you know what I mean, just being annoyed with the young white folks with their loud music, that damn disco. Don't you see it? Damn it, you hippity hoppers. That's what hip hop is. Yeah, So hippity hop to the candy shop, 4 little men in a row. I mean, it's a bar. I can hear it now. Hippity hop to the candy shop, 4 little N-words in a row. This is hip hop. This just feels right to me. This just feels right to me. I think this is like a very exciting ride and glance through the corridors of hip hop history. This is awesome. Can't wait to see where we go next. You know what I mean? So far it's all white people. Black people are there cutting and scratching. We cutting and scratching, and we're cutting and scratching white people stuff. We're just remixing white people stuff. In a court of law, they can claim it. In a court of law, they can claim it. I'm telling you. And if in a court of law they can claim it, in a court of law they should be able to claim the use of the N-word. I'm kidding. Or am I? Man alive. Listen, the routine. Hit the like button. Subscribe. Hit notification. A lot's gonna happen. Join the Discord. American Dream is alive. I'm on X. American Dream Guy. And Cash App. Teamwork makes the dream work. So, if you want the dream to work, it takes teamwork. Hit the Cash App. American Dream is alive. That's the cash tag. American Dream is alive. Let's do this. Peace and blessings. We out. See y'all on the next one.
Recognize royalty. Recognize royalty. Gotta recognize it. Recognize royalty. Like they ain't got eyes to recognize royalty. I can feel. Recognize royalty. I can see. Recognize royalty. Now I recognize royalty. Royalty inside. Royalty. I can see. Recognize royalty. I can love. Recognize royalty. Now I recognize it. Royalty. I recognize passion. Never just a man with the title in his hand, with the vital in his hand, with the Bible in his hand. You never just a man with the scepter in demand, with the lecture in the stand, with the vector and the candle. Can you understand the grand from the texture of the hand? Hard at work, are you hard at work, working with the man? It's the ring of royalty. Crown him king, just a thing, letting loyalty ring. Bring frankincense and myrrh and other things. As gold already blings from the eyes that prizes no sins. Recognize the kings overruling commandments with the Trinity and the power it brings. When you recognize royalty, I feel it. Yeah, I see it. I recognize now. Royalty. I see it. Now I'm in love now. I recognize your passion. Recognize royalty. Sunrise royally. Sitting on top of the world. I'm five morally. Status of a king for surely. Morally, we pop dumb things till we stop the impurity. We pop them just for recognition. Listen to the missionary on a mission with the visionary vision. Do you recognize intuition? I reel in men when I went out fishing. I'll tell you why they rocked the boat. Cause they didn't understand what the prophet wrote. What's the conniption? Choose the Jews' crucifixion and refuse recognition at son child's christening in the mix some and some. Insist they fix the system from malarkey back to my monarchy. Yeah, back up off me. Don't soil my purple and blue, and I will recognize your royalty too. I can feel you. I feel it. I can see you. I can see it. I recognize now. It's your royalty. I see it. And I'm in love now. I recognize your passion. Royalty.
Hey, peace, everyone. Thanks for being here. One idea, lid.
Recognize royalty, recognize it, recognize royalty, gotta recognize it, recognize royalty, like they ain't got eyes to recognize royalty. I can feel, recognize royalty, I can see, recognize royalty, now I recognize royalty, royalty, I can see, recognize royalty, I can love, recognize royalty, now I recognize it. I recognize the passion. Never just a man with the title in his hand, with the vital in his hand, with the Bible in his hand. You never just a man with the scepter and demand, with the lecture and the stand, with the vector and the candle. Can you understand the grand from the texture of the hand? Hard at work, are you hard at work? Working with the man, don't kiss the ring of royalty. Crown him king, just a thing, letting loyalty ring. Bring frankincense and myrrh and other things. It's gold already blings from the highest that prizes no sins. Recognize the kings overruling commandments with the Trinity and the power it brings. When you recognize royalty, I feel it. Yeah, I see it. I recognize now. Royalty. I see it. And I'm in love now. I recognize your passion. Recognize royalty.
All right, everyone. Yeah. So far we've pretty much spoken about disco as being the foundation of hip hop. That's our thesis, and we're sticking to it. With no disco, no hip hop is our theory. So we've gone through that. We've spoken about the hippity hoppers, the term hip hop, the origin of the term, all of that coming from a disco culture. And we've also spoken about the fifth element of knowledge and the Islamic influence on hip hop. And we kind of said that, so far hip hop is pretty foreign influenced by disco, which we said was more white culture than anything else, and Islam, which is an Arabic culture. So, we kind of said that FBA was losing the argument of hip hop being black culture. I think it's pretty much losing out at this point. Yeah, so we're gonna simply go back and continue reading about the origins of hip hop. We're gonna continue on our wiki adventures and see where we can see some more. All right, so let's read a little more about the origins and early years of hip hop. It says musical genres from which hip hop developed include funk, blues, jazz, and rhythm and blues recordings from the 1960s, 50s, and earlier. What? Where's disco? Why didn't it mention disco? I don't understand. This is just another example of wiping white people out of history, if you ask me. But let's see what Wiki talking about. It says musical genres from which hip hop developed include funk, blues, jazz, and rhythm and blues recordings from the 1960s and 50s and earlier, including several records of Bo Diddley and gospel group the Jubilaires, whose 1946 song Noah is often named as the first recorded instance of rap. Bo Diddley is like this blues and rock and roll type stuff. I just don't see the connection between blues and rock and roll and hip hop. I think rock and roll fought against disco, and then disco morphed into hip hop. Hip hop is not rock and roll. And then the Jubilaires, that's gospel stuff. Gospel stuff. Gospel hip hop doesn't come from gospel. They may be rapping, but that's not hip hop. That's not hip hop culture. Hip hop culture does not come out of gospel by the Jubilaires. It just does not. And it does mention rhythm and blues as well. I mean, rhythm and blues, no. Again, rhythm and blues is like slow jams type of stuff. They play slow jams at the parties, sure, but that's not what we go to the parties to dance to the disco. In rhythm and blues, I just don't think that is the heart of hip hop. I think rhythm and blues came in maybe later. But these things that they're suggesting are just not hip hop culture. It just is not. DJs wasn't playing no Jubilaires at these street parties. DJs weren't playing Bo Diddley. DJs weren't playing none of that. They weren't playing no funk and blues and jazz. DJs were playing disco. All right, let's continue reading. Next, it talks about, it says, Muhammad Ali's 1963 spoken word album, I Am the Greatest, is regarded by some as an early example of hip hop. No, that's not hip hop. Muhammad Ali spoken word is not hip hop. It just is not. That's not disco rap. Sorry, Muhammad, you the greatest. But you're not the greatest rapper. No. Who else? Pigmeat Markham's 1968 single, Here Comes the Judge, is one of several songs said to be the earliest hip-hop record. No. He may be rapping, but that's not hip-hop. And you don't hear that at no disco. Ain't nobody in no disco club playing no Pigmeat Markham. Wasn't he a comedian? Wasn't he giving jokes? That's not the birth of no hip hop. Y'all, please, please, y'all need to stop. We know where hip hop came from. Disco culture. That's what it is. What else? Leading up to hip hop, there were spoken word artists such as the Last Poets who released their debut album in 1970, and Gil Scott Heron, who gained a wide audience with his 1971 track, The Revolution Will Not Be Televised. These artists combined spoken word and music to create a kind of proto-rap vibe. I mean, yeah, spoken word, it did have its own kind of cultural vibe, but it was more of an African cultural vibe than anything else with drums and stuff like that. It was not hip hop. It just is not that hip hop vibe. Um, and again, ain't no DJs spinning no spoken word at the clubs. They just not doing it. It's just not being done. Let's see what else it says. It says hip hop music. It says hip hop as music and culture formed during the 1970s in New York City. As expressed by Mark D. Nason of Fordham University, quote, hip hop was born multicultural. Y'all heard that? Y'all heard hip hop was born multicultural, gaining influences from African American, Latin American, and Caribbean musical and dancing traditions. Dancing traditions. Hip hop comes out of a dancing tradition. Not Pigmeat Markham, not the Jubilaires, not Bo Diddley. Bo Diddley gets diddly. In terms of credit for hip hop, that is. It says hip hop music in its infancy has been described as an outlet and a voice for the disenfranchised youth of marginalized backgrounds and low-income areas, as the hip-hop culture reflected the social, economic, and political realities of their lives. Isn't that interesting? That's disco. Didn't we also say that that's what disco was? Wasn't disco a way for people, an outlet from the Nazi stuff that was going on in people's lives as well? Remember, that's what we spoke about when we hailed disco in part 2? That disco, has that Nazi heritage, or, the fight against Nazism. It was a part of that, more in terms of a release for people to go to the disco clubs and dance their troubles away, I guess. But yeah, and then here it's saying hip hop reflected the social and economic and political realities of their lives. And it was a voice, an outlet and a voice for the disenfranchised youth of marginalized backgrounds. So there is that same parallel again with disco. There are too many parallels with disco for us to just let disco. Wait, was that another bar? That was another bar. There are too many parallels with hip hop and disco for us to just let this go. Well, maybe not. But let's read. Many of the people who helped establish hip hop culture, including DJ Kool Herc, DJ Disco Wiz, DJ Disco Wiz. Why would a person named Disco Wiz be given credit for creating hip hop? I'll tell you why, because it's disco. Grandmaster Flash and Africa Bambaataa were of Latin American or Caribbean origin. All of them were of Latin American or Caribbean origin? No, wait, hold on. Cool DJ Herc, DJ Disco Wiz, Grandmaster Flash, and Africa Bambaataa were of Latin American or Caribbean origin. So how was FBA taking credit for this? When all of the original creators, everyone Wiki giving credit for is a Caribbean, is a tether. That is madness. How is it doing that? DJ Disco Wiz is what, Puerto Rican or Cuban? And Grandmaster Flash is from where? These people are all Caribbeans? Africa Bambaataa a Jamaican, and Cool DJ Herc is a Jamaican. They go to the two Jamaican guys. We all know about them two Jamaican guys, don't we? Yes, we do. This DJ Disco Wiz and Grandmaster Flash. I mean, I'm not taking credit from them, but these are not names we hear thrown around a lot when we hear about hip hop's creation. DJ Kool Herc and Africa Bambaataa. Yep, we hear them names all the while. Those are two Jamaican guys that we hear about all the time, but they were all of Caribbean origin. So it's more likely here, if all of these guys are of Caribbean origin, it's more likely that FBA is stealing tether stuff with hip hop. It's not that tethers are trying to take your stuff. Y'all are trying to take tether stuff. Y'all are trying to take our hip hop. Really and truly. Because how did y'all create this? And this is all Caribbean people. Y'all need to really stop taking our stuff, man. You know, we are not in love with it like that. We don't let y'all have it. But you can't, we're not letting you have it because it's yours. We're letting you have it because we don't really want it like that. You heard, we made it, we created it, but you can have it. You can have it. We got better things to rock with. Y'all can have that. Y'all can have the stuff we let go of. We're okay. But it's ours. We created that. Them two Jamaican guys, that's them right there. DJ Kool Wiz and Flash, I mean, they're Caribbean as well. So it's a tether thing. It's a tether thing. You created, I'll give FBA credit for gangster rap. Y'all can have gangster rap. The NWA stuff, that West Coast stuff, y'all can have that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we dig deep. We probably got some Caribbean people out there that started gangster rap. But whatever, you know, it was Caribbeans on the East Coast that started hip hop. Africa Bambaataa, some Caribbean gangsters. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's Caribbean gangsters on the West Coast that started that gangster rap stuff. But I'm going to give it to y'all. Y'all can have gangster rap. Y'all can have it. But hip hop, no, you cannot have hip hop culture. You can have gangster rap culture. That you can possibly have, but not hip hop culture. No. You know, since he is one of the creators and he is Bebe, let's pay our respects to Bebe a little bit in this history of hip hop and read a little bit about Africa Bambaataa. It says Lance Taylor, also known as Africa Bambaataa, is a retired American DJ, rapper, and record producer from South Bronx, New York City. He is notable for releasing a series of genre-defining electro tracks in the 1980s that influenced the development of hip-hop culture. Yeah, electro music, that breakdancing type of music, has to also be given credit for the development of hip-hop. You know, that you can't really separate hip-hop culture from that dancing culture with those breakdancing movies. And that stuff was definitely multicultural. That wasn't just African American stuff. That electronic music is definitely not just African American music. And the dancing, we know that from even watching the movies, that the dancing was absolutely multicultural type stuff. It says Africa Bambaataa is one of the originators of breakbeat DJing through his co-opting of his street gang Black Spades into the music and culture-oriented organization Universal Zulu Nation. He has helped spread hip-hop culture throughout the world. In May 2016, Bambaataa left his position as head of the Universal Zulu Nation due to multiple allegations of child sexual abuse dating as far back as the 1970s. Yeah, I think we had mentioned that before, but you know, we did say these were allegations, and these are just allegations, but we did say there does seem to be a gay thing going on with hip hop from its inception. So, you know, let's talk about the other Jamaican guy. The other Jamaican guy is DJ Kool Herc. Let's read a little bit about him. Clive Campbell. Wow, what a Jamaican name. Hey, Clive Campbell, better known by his stage name, DJ Kool Herc, is a Jamaican American DJ who was credited with being one of the founders of hip hop music in the Bronx, New York City in 1973. Nicknamed the father of hip hop, Campbell began playing hard funk records of the sort typified by James Brown. Campbell began to isolate the instrumental portion of the record, which emphasized the drum beat, the break, and switch from one break to another using the same two turntable setup of disco DJs. He used two copies of the same record to elongate the break. So he was using the same two turntable setup of disco DJs. Even the setup comes from disco. The DJ setup thing is from disco. You can't escape disco when you're talking about hip hop. This breakbeat DJing using funky drum solos formed the basis of hip hop music. Campbell's announcements and exhortations to dancers helped lead to the syncopated, rhythmically spoken accompaniment now known as rapping. So just talking over these dance tracks. He called the dancers break boys and break girls, or simply b-boys and b-girls, terms that continue to be used 50 years later in the sport of breaking. Campbell's DJ style was quickly taken up by figures such as Africa Bambaataa and Grandmaster Flash. So they're actually giving Herc the credit for the DJing style. And even the rapping as well, with his just talking over the beats and trying to get people to the dance floor. And it says, unlike Africa Bambaataa and Grandmaster Flash, he never made the move into commercially recorded hip hop in its early. On November 3rd, 2023, Campbell was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in the Musical Influence Award category. Man, if he's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, it's because of hip hop. It's because he's considered the father of hip hop. You know what I'm saying? And that's what he is. He's the creator. I said he's the creator. They put him as the father. I think Africa Bambaataa is the father. The creator is Kool Herc. The father is Africa Bambaataa. You know what I mean? I'm the two Jamaican guys. The creator and the father. Can't get around it. They're both Jamaican guys. And then we have the GOAT, which is Biggie Smalls. Biggie, arguably the GOAT, is another Jamaican guy. And the teacher, KRS-One, another Jamaican guy. Look at that. We run things when it comes to hip hop. We run it. Our signature is all over it. We're the creator, the father, the GOAT, and the teacher. Come to the teachers. All right, but let's go back to our reading. It says it's hard to pinpoint the exact musical influences that most affected the sound and culture of early hip hop because of the multicultural nature of New York. Hip hop's early pioneers were influenced by a mix of cultures due to the city's diversity. So again, they're giving this up to diversity and multiculturalism. Hip hop is a multicultural phenomenon. It's not a black culture phenomenon. It's very multicultured. The city experienced a heavy Jamaican hip-hop influence during the 1990s. This influence was brought on by cultural shifts, particularly because of the heightened immigration of Jamaicans to New York and the American-born Jamaican youth who were coming of age during the 1990s. Yeah, man, Jamaicans was running the Bronx. We ran the Bronx. The Bronx was our home. It was Little Jamaica. In the 1970s, block parties became increasingly popular in New York, particularly among African-American, Caribbean, and Hispanic youth residing in the Bronx. Block parties incorporated DJs who played popular genres of music, especially funk and soul music. Due to the positive reception, DJs began isolating the percussive breaks of popular songs. This technique was common in Jamaican dub music and was largely introduced into New York by immigrants from the Caribbean, including DJ Kool Herc, one of the pioneers of hip hop. Herc was repeatedly denied any direct connections between Jamaican musical traditions and early hip hop, stating that his own biggest influence was James Brown, from whom he says rap originated. Even before moving to the US, Herc says his biggest influences came from American music. I was listening to American music in Jamaica, and my favorite artist was James Brown. That's who inspired me. A lot of the records I played were by James Brown. Herc also says that he was not influenced by Jamaican sound system parties, as he was too young to experience them when he was in Jamaica. I mean, I don't know. All of this sounds kind of, just sounds quirky. Why would they call it disco rap? They were playing funk and soul music, and if all you're going to talk about is funk and soul music, why is it called disco rap? That's the part that's not making any sense to me, and the fact that it's disco just makes more sense to me. It comes out of a dance culture. Funk and soul music is not dancing music. Am I missing something? Disco is dance music, and disco is dance culture. Funk and soul is more blues than anything else. Anyway, Herc also says he was not influenced by Jamaican sound system parties, as he was too young to experience them when he was in Jamaica. I think Herc is just being humble. I think he's just being humble. He may have felt the pressures of people trying to say he's not the creator and blah, blah. But I think it's his humility kicking in. In a 2020 interview, DJ Kool Herc's sister, Cindy Campbell, said she wanted Jamaica to reclaim hip hop because, as she put it, we are the ones who brought the style and the technique to America, which later became hip hop. That's right, Cindy. Cindy, look it. Cindy, look it. You right. It's our stuff. It's this Jamaicans created hip hop. Let them know, Cindy. I'm with you. Because the percussive breaks in funk, soul, and disco records were generally short. Oh, finally they mentioned disco. Finally. Because the percussive breaks in funk, soul, and disco records were generally short, Herc and other DJs began using two turntables to extend the breaks. On August 11, 1973, Kool Herc was the DJ at his sister's back-to-school party. He extended the beat of a record by using two record players, isolating the percussion breaks by using a mixer to switch between the two records. Herc's experiments with making music with record players became what we now know as breaking or scratching. So Herc invented scratching too. So scratching, he invented breaking the beats, he invented rapping. All of this was cool DJ Herc. And this is not, I mean, I don't know what else to say. A second key musical element in hip hop music is emceeing, also called emceeing or rapping. Emceeing is the rhythmic spoken delivery of rhymes and wordplay, delivered at first without accompaniment and later done over a beat. This spoken style was influenced by the African American style of capping, a performance where men try to outdo each other in originality of their language and try to gain the favor of the listeners. Yep, capping. That's an African American style of capping. It says rapping comes out of capping. That's not cap. The only capping going on is saying African Americans created hip hop. That's capping. The basic elements of hip hop: boasting raps, rival posses or groups, uptown throwdowns, and political and social commentary were all long present in African American music. MCing and rapping performers moved back and forth between the predominance of songs packed with a mix of boasting, slackness, and sexual innuendo, and a more topical, political, socially conscious style. The role of the MC originally was as a master of ceremonies from a DJ dance event. The role of the MC was for a dance event. The MC would introduce the DJ and try to pump up the audience. The MC spoke between the DJ songs, urging everyone to get up and dance. MCs would also tell jokes and use their energetic language enthusiasm to rev up the crowd. Eventually, this introducing role developed into longer sessions of spoken, rhythmic wordplay and rhyming, which became rapping. I think that's enough that I want to talk about. So at least they did mention, the disco records. It's hip hop is called disco rap for a reason. And I think when we talk about, and I think that reason is because the main type of music they were messing around with at dance parties were disco music. Prove me wrong, damn it. But why else would they call it disco rap if disco was not, the mainstay of the culture? Yes. And so, it appears clear to me that hip hop is more Jamaican than FBA. It's absolutely more Caribbean than FBA. In terms of the originators, all the originators is Caribbean. So it's definitely, it's definitely a multicultural thing. Hip hop is not Black culture. That you're doing a disservice to hip hop by saying that. Not that, you're just being crazy. You're doing a disservice to history, really. And the funny thing is, it's people who from outside of the Bronx, from outside of New York, that wants to say that hip hop is Black culture. People from New York ain't really saying that. At least I hope they're not saying that. That would be crazy. Anyone from New York that's saying that would have like a really hard time of explaining that and, kind of just making sense of that in lieu of just how diverse New York City is. And I'm talking anywhere in New York City. It's just too diverse. So we're claiming it. Hip hop is more Jamaican. We got them two Jamaican guys, Cool Herc. Wiki gave him credit for MCing, rapping, scratching, break beats. What else is there? The break dancing, and the Latinos got that. Like I don't know. The Latinos and the electronic music culture, I think they take that dancing piece of hip hop. I think they definitely take that. So, y'all really stealing our hip hop. You guys accuse us of that. Y'all accuse us and say we've taken your R&B and created reggae music. Well, you took our hip hop, man. Hip hop is Jamaican people, them Jamaican guys. So this video is two Jamaican guys and a white girl. The Jamaican guys, if you haven't figured it out, it's DJ Kool Herc and Africa Bambaataa. And the white girl is disco. The white girl is disco. So it's two Jamaican guys and a white girl. That is the origin of hip hop. Two Jamaican guys and a white girl. And we're going to get a little bit more into the white girl soon. Wait, hold on. That didn't come out right. We're going to explore more about the white girl pretty soon. But where are we? We got it's the Jamaican DJ, Kool Herc, the Jamaican gangster, Africa Bambata, the Jamaican gangster turned DJ, and then the white girl dancer, the disco dancing white girl, which is disco, two Jamaicans and a white girl. So I think it's clear that hip hop, in my opinion, hip hop is New York City culture. It's Bronx culture. It's that multicultural, diverse street partying culture. And all of those different pieces were needed to create that culture. That diversity was needed to create that culture. It's not Black culture. It's not Latino culture. It's everybody. It's Blacks, Latinos, Caribbean people, white people, gay people. Everybody came together and kind of this culture evolved out of that type of atmosphere, out of that New York City atmosphere is where hip hop evolved out of. Hip hop was not created. Hip hop evolved out of that New York City lifestyle. And, FBA, really and truly, this is to your advantage. You should not want to take full credit for hip hop. Hip hop is mainly negativity. Hip hop, you really should not want to take full credit for this. Don't take full credit for hip hop. Y'all, it's really disgusting stuff. Y'all do not want to take full credit for Tekashi 6ix9ine. You cannot. African Americans, y'all really think it's Tekashi 6ix9ine is just your creation? I think not. Sexy Red. And I wouldn't take credit for that. I wouldn't want to take credit for that. Like, share it. Like, let people know it's not just you. Like, it's not that positive of a thing that you just want to hold on to it. This is one of them things you shouldn't want to be holding on to like that. And I think, let me just go off on a little tangent. I think this whole idea of, with the fifth element of hip hop, we spoke about it being that the knowledge of hip hop is centered around Islam and it's syncretic Islam, which means it's just made up stuff. So, in this form of Islam, the black man is the original man, the God of the universe, the creator of civilization, right? Everything is centered around the black man. And this is hip hop consciousness. The black man is God, is hip hop consciousness. And I think that the idea of the black man being Egyptian, the Egyptians being black, Abos being black, the Moors being black, Israelites being black, is all a part of that mentality, of that hip hop original man mentality. I think all of that comes out of hip hop's fifth element, and we have a generation of people with that mentality, with that hip hop mentality of the black man is the creator of the universe and nothing exists without him. And I think the whole FBA movement of saying that Black Americans are foundational to America is just another variation of that argument that the black man is the original man, the mothers and fathers of civilization. They're now the mothers and fathers of America. They are the mothers and fathers of everything. It's just that subconscious hip hop mentality kicking in, if you know what I mean. But that's my theory. That's my theory. And the reason it's my theory is because we should remember that hip hop is a movement. It's a social movement. And I believe that it's a movement to create a type of mentality and a type of thinking. And I think that what we are seeing now with FBA is kind of a manifestation of that type of original man thinking. I think we're just seeing the fruits of the seeds that were planted by this fifth element of hip hop in the early 70s. So it's that type of movement. It's that type of conscious movement to create a certain type of consciousness. I think to create an un-American type of consciousness. And I think that the gay agenda was also tied into that as well. I think there was a gay consciousness attached to that as well. Because you can't really separate hip hop from homosexuality. It's just not possible. It goes all the way back to Africa Bambata, as we said, and it's always been a part of, hip hop culture. And that I think we're going to talk about next is just hip hop as a movement, a social movement, and I think that should point to us really and truly that hip hop is not a Black creation. That once we see exactly who's behind the movement is really who's creating hip hop. And so far we've seen that there's a Islamic consciousness movement of original man, God of the universe type thinking, and we're also seeing a drug use and sexual promiscuity movement as well within hip hop. Hip hop is about drugs and sex and gang activity. And I think that's all a part of the movement and the un-American stuff that was being pushed onto American youth. And I think that the people behind that movement are more, in my estimation, are more going to be given the credit for creating hip hop. And I think that once we see who those people are, we'll say that hip hop is definitely not a Black creation. It's not of the Black culture. So that's where we are, man. That's where we are. I think this is a good place to stop for this show, for this episode. Episode, what is this? Episode 6? Yes. Actually, no. We want to talk about the white girl some more. So let me talk about the white girl just a little bit more. I want to point your attention to Regine Zilberberg. A little bird that was watching the series sent me this link on Regine Zilberberg, born Rachel Zilberberg. So I want to talk about her just a little bit and see what she has to do with all of this, with hip hop. It says Regine Zilberberg, often known mononymously as Regine, was a Belgian-born French singer and nightclub impresario. She dubbed herself the Queen of the Night. Rachel Zilberberg was born in Anderlecht, Belgium, to Polish Jewish parents, Joseph Zilberberg and Taube Rothstein. She spent much of her early life in hiding from the Nazis in occupied wartime France. Yeah, so I guess that's the disco connection, maybe. Abandoned in infancy by her unwed mother, who moved to Argentina, she was 12 when her father was arrested by the Nazis. She hid in a convent where she was reportedly beaten. After the war, she sold bras in the streets of Paris. Her father, Joseph, managed to survive the war. He opened a cafe in Paris's Belleville neighborhood. Zilberberg had one son, Lionel, from her first husband, Leon Roth Cage, whom she married when she was 17. Known as Regine, she became a torch singer. By 1953, she was a nightclub manager in Paris. She is attributed with the invention of the modern-day discotheque by virtue of creating a new dynamic atmosphere at Paris's Whiskey A Go-Go, with the ubiquitous jukebox replaced by disc jockeys utilizing linked turntables. Zilberg's Paris Whiskey A Go-Go became the inspiration for the later establishment of the Whiskey A Go-Go nightclub in Los Angeles. So there it is, ladies and gentlemen. The creator or the inventor of the discotheque, Regine Zilberberg, the white girl. It says she actually created the new dynamic atmosphere. She replaced the jukebox with DJs with linked turntables. That's fundamentals of hip hop right there. And here is this young lady in France who is attributed with creation of the discotheque. And we said the discotheque is from which the street parties of hip hop were invented. So I think, we did say the white girl was disco, but I think that's generally speaking, if you want a specific white girl, here she is. Her name is Rachel Zilberberg. Put some respect on her name. You heard? So those are two Jamaicans and a white guy and a white girl. The Jamaican DJ, Kool Herc, the Jamaican gangster, Africa Bambaataa, and the white girl disco dancer, Rachel Zilberberg. There you have it. There you have it. So this is definitely a good place for us to stop with this episode. And so far, Black folks, you're losing. You're losing. Y'all did a lot of rapping, but hip hop is not just rapping. Hip hop is not just rapping. Anyone who thinks hip hop is just rapping is just capping. Right? And let's remember, rapping is capping. Rapping is capping. So the main part of hip hop that y'all contributed was capping. I mean, I didn't say it. Wikipedia said it, not me. It was Wiki. All right, y'all. So we got one more part to go. The best was left for last. You know what I mean? In terms of the creation of hip hop. So we got the last episode 7, part 7 to go. So please check out that last one. As usual, remember to hit the like button. Please hit the like button. You can subscribe, turn on your notifications. I hope to have a lot going on this channel. So, be notified. Come hang out with me in the Discord. American Dream is alive. Come hang out with us. Twitter, I'm on X. I'm the American Dream Guy. I'm on TikTok, American Dreamer Guy. I'm on Instagram, American Dreamer Guy. So, I'm everywhere. Check me out. All right, people. Thanks again for being here. We're going to catch you on the next one. Peace.
Recognize royalty, recognize it, recognize royalty, gotta recognize it, recognize royalty, like they ain't got eyes to recognize royalty. I can feel, recognize royalty, I can see, recognize royalty, now I recognize royalty, royalty, I can see, recognize royalty, I can love, recognize royalty, now I recognize it. I recognize passion. Never just a man with the title in his hand, with the vital in his hand, with the Bible in his hand. You never just a man with the scepter and demand, with the lecture and the stand, with the vector and the candle. Can you understand the grand from the texture of the hand? Hard at work, are you hard at work? Working with a man, don't kiss the ring of royalty. Crown him king, just a thing, letting loyalty ring. Bring frankincense and myrrh and other things. It's gold already blings from the highest of prizes, no sense. Recognize the king's overruling commandments with the Trinity and the power it brings when you recognize royalty. I feel it. Yeah, I see it. I recognize now. Royalty. I see it. Now I'm in love now. I recognize your passion. Sitting on top of the world, I'm five morally. Status of a king for surely. Morally, we pop dumb things till we stop the impurity. We pop them just for recognition. Listen to the missionary on a mission with the visionary vision. Do you recognize intuition? I reel in men when I went out fishing. I'll tell you why they rocked the boat. Cause they didn't understand what the prophet wrote. What's the conniption? Choose the Jews crucifixion and refuse recognition at son child's christening in the mix amid some. Insist they fix the system from malarkey back to my monarchy. Yeah, back off me. Don't soil my purple and blue, and I will recognize your royalty too.
I can feel you.
Feel it.
I can see you.
I can see it.
Now I recognize
now.
royalty's eyes.
Your royalty.
I can see you.
I see it.
I can love again.
And I'm in love now.
Now
I recognize your passion.
royalty.
Royalty.
Hey, peace, everyone. Thanks for being here. One idea, lid.
Recognize royalty, recognize it, recognize royalty, gotta recognize it, recognize royalty, like they ain't got eyes to recognize royalty.
I can feel
Recognize royalty,
I can see
recognize royalty,
now I recognize
royalty,
royalty's eyes.
royalty,
I can see
recognize royalty,
I can love
recognize royalty,
now
I recognize it. I recognize the passion. Never just the man with the title in his hand, with the vital in his hand, with the Bible in his hand. You never just the man with the scepter and demand, with the lecture and the stand, with the vector and the candle. Can you understand the grand from the texture of the hand? Hard at work, are you hard at work? Working with the man, don't kiss the ring of royalty. Crown him king, just a thing, letting loyalty ring. Bring frankincense and myrrh and other things. It's gold already blings from the highest that prizes no sense. Recognize the king's overruling commandments with the Trinity and the power it brings when you recognize royalty. I feel it. Yeah, I see it. I recognize now. Royalty. I see it. And I'm in love now. I recognize your passion. Recognize royalty.
All right, y'all. Yeah. Welcome to the grand finale. We made it. We're in part 7 of our 7-part series of a history in hip hop culture, or history of hip hop culture. Part 6, we spoke about the 2 Jamaican guys and the white girl that we said should be considered the pillars of hip hop culture. And so in today's show, we are going to be talking about how hip hop is in fact a social movement to the left, to the left, to the left. Now slide, baby. And we're going to slide into that and see, exactly how far to the left the social movement of hip hop went. And the one piece that that we didn't touch on when we spoke about the Black Spades, because the Black Spades is the gang where hip hop had its birth. And when we were reading about the Black Spades, we saw some interesting things that I just want to revisit as we, move to the left. And so now, remember, it says the Black Spades officially formed in Junior High School 123 on Morrison Avenue in Soundview, originally a teenage street organization. The Spades followed the teachings of the 5% Nation, Malcolm X, and the Nation of Islam. And that's what we said kind of was the fifth element of hip hop. And we spoke about that in the What's Today's Mathematics episode. But it actually goes on. It says the Spades followed the teachings of the 5% Nation, Malcolm X, the Nation of Islam, and they were influenced by the Black Panthers and the Weather Underground organization. And that's the one piece that we didn't really touch on. So we want to touch on that in this final episode and see what we can see. All right. So let's talk about the Black Panthers a little bit, since they were a big influence on the Black Spades. It says the Black Panther Party, originally the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense, was a Marxist, Leninist, and Black Power political organization founded by college students Bobby Seale and Huey P. Newton in October 1966 in Oakland, California. So, that's the movement to the left. That's far left, right? Marxist, Leninist. It doesn't get much more far left than Marxist, Leninist, and a Black Power organization. And, that's even more un-American influences. That's quite an un-American influence on hip hop still. So far we're seeing very un-American influences in hip hop, mainly in the fifth element of hip hop, and now even in the influences and of hip hop, and I would take it that the Black Spades were influenced by the Black Panther Party because they had members in common, maybe. I would imagine. But they had connections somehow. It says the party was active in the United States between 1966 and 1982, with chapters in many major American cities, including San Francisco, New York City, Chicago, Los Angeles, Seattle, and Philadelphia. They were also active in many prisons and had international chapters in the United Kingdom and Algeria. Upon its inception, I didn't know all of that. UK and Algeria, they had the Black Panthers. That's interesting. Upon its inception, the party's core practice was its open carry patrols, cop watching. That reminds me of defund the police, doesn't it? I'm sure the Black Panthers would have supported defunding the police. Yeah, so this all seems quite un-American, as I said before. The whole Black Power thing is Marxist Leninist stuff as well. Black Power is leftist Marxist Leninist propaganda. That's what Black Power really is about. But let me read. It says, upon its inception, the party's core practice was its open carry patrols designed to challenge the excessive force and misconduct of the Oakland Police Department. From 1969 onward, the party created social programs, including the Free Breakfast for Children programs, education programs, and community health clinics. They did a lot of programs. I think what they were, maybe they had certain programs with the gangs as well. Maybe that's the influence that they had, were through these programs, trying to straighten out these young Black kids. Maybe the Black Panther Party advocated for class struggle, claiming to represent the proletarian vanguard. In 1969, J. Edgar Hoover, the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, described the party as the greatest threat to the internal security of the country. Wow. The FBI sabotaged the party with an illegal and covert and counterintelligence program of surveillance, infiltration, perjury, and police harassment, all designed to undermine and criminalize the party. The FBI was involved in the 1969 assassinations of Fred Hampton and Mark Clark, who were killed in a raid by the Chicago Police Department. Black Panther Party members were involved in many fatal firefights with police. Huey Newton allegedly killed Officer John Frey in 1967, and Eldridge Cleaver, Minister of Information, led an ambush in 1968 of Oakland police officers, in which 2 officers were wounded and Panther treasurer Bobby Hutton was killed. The party suffered many internal conflicts, resulting in the murder of Alex Rackley. Yeah, the Black Panthers were really, really out there. They were really out there. Government persecution initially contributed to the party's growth among African Americans and the political left, who both valued the party as a powerful force against de facto segregation and the U.S. military draft during the Vietnam War. Okay, so that's how the political left got involved, because of government persecution. And the political left valued the party as a powerful force against the military draft. So African Americans saw them as a force against segregation, and the political left saw them as a force against the military draft, is what I would assume. Party membership peaked in 1970 and gradually declined over the next decade due to vilification by the mainstream press and infighting largely fomented by COINTELPRO. Support further declined over reports of the party's alleged criminal activities such as drug dealing and extortion. Yeah, maybe that's more of the gang connection as well, and the gang influence as well. The party's history is controversial. Scholars have characterized the Black Panther Party as the most influential Black Power organization of the late 1960s and the strongest link between the domestic Black liberation struggle and global opponents of American imperialism. That's a strong statement. It says scholars characterize them as the strongest link between the domestic Black liberation struggle and global opponents of American imperialism, right? The Black Panther Party are a very anti-American organization. And I think that the political left kind of used the Black struggle as a way of fighting against American imperialism. And I think they used hip hop as one of those tools. So it's all about anti-American things that are happening. It's an anti-American effort to really destroy America. And I think hip hop was one of those tools that were being used. Other scholars have described the party as more criminal than political, characterized by defiant posturing over substance. Yeah, so I understand the gang connection, but that connection with the political left is really interesting. I think the political left were really using them for their own purposes of fighting against imperialism. I think where the Black Panther Party started out fighting just, against racism and segregation, the political left kind of took over or infiltrated and kind of got them to be fighting now against American imperialism and against the values of America, if you will. So I guess we're kind of seeing those connections. So we kind of see that hip hop has a very, again, I'm going to keep saying this, but hip hop has a very un-American foundation. From the fifth element of Islam to the influences of the Black Panther Party and Marxism and Leninism, all of it is just un-American stuff. It's an un-American movement. And it's even a movement to help destroy America. I think it's a left of the left wing movement to destroy America by creating, just making people feel disenfranchised and, just creating resentment among American citizens and just creating this hate for Americans to get people to have like a sincere hate for their own country. And that is so evident today. I think that is so evident today. So the movement has definitely worked. Most hip hoppers don't have a love for their country. Love for country and patriotism is not a hip hop value. It absolutely is not. No way. I think the one other piece I wanted to look into was the Weather Underground organization. It says the Black Spades were influenced by the Black Panthers and the Weather Underground organization. So I just want to read and learn a little bit about them before we do anything else. All right, so it says the Weather Underground was a far-left Marxist militant organization, first active in 1969, founded on the Ann Arbor campus of the University of Michigan. So another leftist, far-left Marxist militant organization that's influencing the Black Spades. Somehow these street gangs are being influenced by Marxist Leninist organizations. Isn't that just wild? Isn't that crazy? That's so crazy to me. Like that is why it's a social movement. All along we thought when people said hip hop is a social movement for the youth, we thought it was just what that meant was just young people creating a culture, and that's what the movement was. But that's not the movement. The movement was literally a far left Marxist movement to create dissension amongst Americans and to create a hate for America. I'm like, my mind is blown. Okay, so let's continue reading. It says, originally known as the Weathermen, the group was organized as a faction. Originally known as the Weathermen, the group was organized as a faction of Students for a Democratic Society, SDS, National Leadership, Students for a Democratic Society, officially known as the Weathermen Underground Organization. Beginning in 1970, the group's express political goal was to create a revolutionary party to overthrow the United States government, which the WUO believed to be imperialist. So the Black Spades, which is where hip hop started, that the Black Spades were being influenced by a far left Marxist militant organization, whose political goal was to quote, create a revolutionary party to overthrow the United States government. Their goal was to overthrow the United States government. And this organization is considered to be among the influences of the Black Spades, out of which hip hop was created. Isn't that wild? That's wild, ain't it? That is totally wild, bro. So again, the whole racism, white supremacy, all of that is this far left Marxist movement to create dissension amongst Black people who will then assist them with overthrowing the U.S. government. Isn't that crazy? No, that's wild. Well, let me continue reading. The FBI described the WUO, the Weather Underground Organization, as a domestic terrorist group with revolutionary positions characterized by Black power and opposition to the Vietnam War. They casted them as a domestic terrorist group. Hip hop has domestic terrorism in its history. That's wild. I mean, that explains everything about hip hop. That explains how negative hip hop is. That explains just everything about hip hop. It explains how un American the culture is. Even Black Power. The idea of Black Power is a very un American idea. It just is. And Black Power and racism and the calls and the fight against racism and white supremacy is simply a front for the real goal, which is to overthrow the US government and bring about a leftist, communist, Marxist, Leninist utopia. But let's read. The WUO took part in domestic attacks, such as the jailbreak of Timothy Leary in 1970. The Days of Rage was the WUO's first riot in October 1969 in Chicago, timed to coincide with the trial of the Chicago Seven. In 1970, the group issued a declaration of a state of war against the United States government under the name Weather Underground Organization. They declared war against the United States government. The group that was influencing the Black Spades, the group that's tied to the Black Spades, were declared domestic terrorist. They declared war against the U.S. government. First, it was the Black Panthers. The Black Panthers were a domestic terrorist group as well. And so were these guys, the Weather Underground guys. They were all domestic terrorists. But these guys declared war, right? And I see that, I guess they got through the Black Spades, through the Black Panthers, but that's all that it is. Like that's the foundation right there. That's the foundation of hip hop. The foundation of hip hop is Marxist, Leninist, left-wing, communist propaganda and agenda. The foundation of hip hop is far left, Marxist, Leninist, communist effort to overthrow the US government. That is the social movement. It's a social movement to overthrow the US government. Hip hop is a social movement to overthrow the US government. Okay, it's a part of the movement. Hip hop is a part of the movement to overthrow the US government. That's crazy to me. The Days of Rage, yeah. In the 1970s, the WO conducted a bombing campaign targeting government buildings and several banks. Some attacks were preceded by evacuation warnings, along with threats identifying the particular matter that the attack was intended to protest. And I guess this may be why they went through gangs, because maybe these gangbangers were helping them with these attacks. That's why they need to go to the gangbangers. Like, were these gangbangers really involved in these attacks? That's nuts. And hip hop was just their way of creating the dissension in people to get them to get so upset that they'd be willing to do these attacks. And that's something hip hop just kind of nurtures. Hip hop nurtures their hate for their country, which makes them just the proper and ripe feeding ground for these domestic terrorists. That's crazy. In the 1970s, the WO conducted a bombing campaign targeting government buildings and several banks. Some attacks were preceded by evacuation warnings, along with threats identifying the particular matter that the attack was intended to protest. 3 members of the group were killed in an accidental Greenwich Village townhouse explosion, but none were killed in any of the bombings. The WUO communique issued in connection with the bombing of the United States Capitol on March 1st, 1971, indicated that it was in protest of the U.S. invasion of Laos. The WUO asserted that its May 19, 1972 bombing of the Pentagon was in retaliation for the U.S. bombing raid in Hanoi. Yo, these cats were serious. These were some serious dudes. They were attacking and bombing the Pentagon. On September 20th, 1973, an ITT Inc. building in New York City was bombed for the involvement of this company in the 1973 Chilean coup d'etat. The WO announced that its January 29th, 1975 bombing of the United States Department of State building was in response to the escalation in Vietnam. That is wild. The WUO began to disintegrate after the United States reached a peace accord in Vietnam in 1973, and it was defunct by 1977. Some members of the WUO joined the May 19th Communist Organization and continued their activities until that group disbanded in 1985. I wonder what they became. I wonder if that group still exists today in some form. Black Lives Matter. Hey. Wowzers. But isn't that something, though? Isn't that something? Where all of this led us to. Where all of this took us to. Last thing I want to read about. Let me read about this last thing that caught my eye. The Students for a Democratic Society, SDS. It says the Weathermen were a faction of this group. So I just want to see what they were about real quick. So let's read. Students for a Democratic Society, SDS, was a national student activist organization in the United States during the 1960s and was one of the principal representations of the New Left. Disdaining permanent leaders, hierarchical relationships, and parliamentary procedure, the founders conceived of this organization as a broad exercise in participatory democracy. From its launch in 1960, it grew rapidly in the course of the tumultuous decade, with over 300 campus chapters and 30,000 supporters recorded nationwide by its last national convention in 1969. The organization splintered at that convention amidst rivalry between factions, seeking to impose national leadership and direction and disputing revolutionary positions, among other issues, the Vietnam War and Black Power. All right, so I guess when they broke up, the Weathermen formed through their breaking up. But looks like there was a lot of, dissension within the ranks. But it says they were one of the principal representations of the New Left. Let's see what the New Left is. But again, it's a social movement to the left, to the left, to the left. Now dip, baby, dip. Dip, baby. Let's dip. It says the New Left was a broad political movement that emerged from the counterculture of the 1960s and continued through the 1970s. It consisted of activists in the Western world who, in reaction to the era's liberal establishment, campaigned for freer lifestyles on a broad range of social issues such as feminism, gay rights, drug policy reforms, and gender relations. Wow. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. There it is. It was all a movement of the New Left. It was all a movement of the New Left. This new hip-hop movement is this whole thing about feminism and gay rights and all of that. And all of that is all left-wing stuff. All left Marxist, Leninist, left-wing policies. The New Left differs from the traditional left in that it tended to acknowledge the struggle for various forms of social justice, the New Left, whereas previous movements prioritize explicitly economic goals. However, many have used the term New Left to describe an evolution, continuation, and revitalization of traditional leftist goals. But they're definitely leftists. They're definitely leftists. Some who identified as New Left rejected involvement with the labor movement and Marxism's historical theory of class struggle, although others gravitated to their own takes on established forms of Marxism, such as the New Communist movement. Um, yeah, I think that pretty much is the extent of our interest here. Yeah, I think we've seen what kind of confirms what we believe. The foundation of hip hop is very un-American. It's an un-American effort to destroy America. You know, hip hop, it comes out of a declaration of war against America. That's what hip hop is, and that's what FBA wants to take credit for. This is bigger than FBA. Hip hop is so much bigger than FBA. That's why it took a whole New York City culture, you know, in order to get this popping. It had to be the right setting. Like these organizations had to be involved in the right setting at the right place, and New York City is the right place to pop off this new left movement, because that's where they were centered, in New York. But I believe that's a part of that hip hop is a part of that movement. I believe that when they say, you know what I mean, that's hip hop, you know what I mean, that's why when they dropping bombs for real, for real. They don't just drop bombs when they in battles and when they hear a good song. They dropping bombs for real, for real. You know? So who created hip hop? Who really created hip hop? The new left. The push for feminism, gay rights, drug reform. Those are the people that created hip hop. Those are the people that started that social movement, that went into those gangs and influenced those gangs and had people join their struggle, and may have even had them blowing up spots for them. But these are the people that influenced them and got them to move in the direction they wanted them to move. But their movement was about war against the American government. That's what the leftist movement is about, and that's what hip hop is about. That's why gangster rap took off. I mean, why wouldn't gangster rap have taken off? But that is the foundation of hip hop. That, I believe, is even bigger than the two Jamaican guys and the white girl. This new leftist movement kind of just took them over. They're small fries to this hip hop pioneering movement. The two Jamaican guys and the white girl, this talk about Bambata, disco, all of that is small fries. What's at the heart of hip hop is the left, the new left, and the Marxist Leninist agenda of destroying America, and just the hate that they have for the American way of life, because they think America is an imperialist state, and they have a genuine hate for America. They have a hate for capitalism. They have a hate for free markets, and that is what we're up against, and hip hop is the product of that mentality. Hip hop is the product of a hate for America mentality. Hip hop is about hating America. If you hate America, you're hip hop. It is what it is. It is what it is. But that's where we are. That's the history. That's my history of hip hop. Take it or leave it. That's my history of hip hop. I hope y'all enjoyed it. I hope y'all got something to make you think. But regardless, whether or not, it is what it is. I still thank you for your time. Go back and watch it from the first one. Watch it again. Watch it again. You'll enjoy it even more, and you'll kind of put pieces together a little more now that you know the end. And you may make connections that I have not even made. Go back and click on some of them links in Wiki. It's just me cruising through Wiki. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man. Hit that like button, subscribe, be notified. You done know the whole rigmarole. Yeah, man. Once again, thanks for being here. Bless yourselves. Be good. We're going to catch you on the next one. You heard? All right, y'all. One love.
Recognize royalty, recognize it, recognize royalty, gotta recognize it, recognize royalty, like they ain't got eyes to recognize royalty.
I can feel,
Recognize royalty,
I can see,
recognize royalty,
now I recognize
royalty,
royalty's eyes.
royalty,
I can see,
recognize royalty,
I can love
recognize
again.
royalty,
Now I
recognize it.
royalty,
I recognize the
royalty.
passion. This the man with the title in his hand, with the vital in his hand, with the Bible in his hand. You never diss the man with the scepter and demand, with the lecture and the stand, with the vector and the candle. Can you understand the grand from the texture of the hand? Hard at work, are you hard at work, working with the man? Don't kiss the ring of royalty, crown him king, just a thing, letting loyalty ring. Bring frankincense and myrrh and other things. It's gold already blames from the highest that prizes no sense. Recognize the king's overruling commandments with the Trinity and the power it brings when you recognize royalty. I feel it.
I can see you.
Yeah, I see it. I recognize now.
Royalty's eyes.
Royalty.
I can see you.
I see it.
I can love again.
Now I'm in love now. I recognize your passion.
Royalty.
Recognize royalty. Sunrise royally. Sitting on top of the world. I'm five morally. Status of a king for surely. Morally, we pop them things till we stop the impurity. We pop them just for recognition. Listen to the missionary on a mission with the visionary vision. Do you recognize intuition? I reel in men when I went out fishing. I'll tell you why they rocked the boat. Cause they didn't understand what the prophet wrote. What's the conniption? Choose the Jews' crucifixion and refuse recognition at son child's christening in the mix some and some. Insist they fix the system from malarkey back to my monarchy. Yeah, back off me. Don't soil my purple and blue, and I will recognize your royalty too.
I can feel you.
Feel it.
I can see you.
I can see it.
Now
I recognize now.
royalty's eyes.
Your royalty.
I can see you.
I see it.
I can love again.
And I'm in love now. I recognize your passion.
Royalty.